This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hello, everybody. We're live. This is Eva with the From Pain to Purpose radio show. And welcome to Saturday. This is February 15th, 2025, the year of our Lord. And I, sometimes in my people garden, if y'all know what I'm talking about on the people garden side of things, I come across some people that are just very interesting. And, sometimes I'm going to use this word stalk loosely, but I stalk people and I'm enthralled with what their story is, because if y'all watched my debut show a couple of weeks ago, I think many of us have a From Pain to Purpose story, but we just don't quite know how we embrace that in our lives. And sometimes it's a catalyst that we go through something ourselves, or something starts from someplace else. And, inevitably, these are things that help us grow in life. But we sometimes, like me, I now become more informed about a variety of topics, and I think it's very useful to share. So I'm really excited about my guest that's coming on today. Let me go ahead and do this. I'm having some technical problems here, so if y'all will hold.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
All right, so let me introduce Mike Land. So, I live in North Texas, work in the DC area, but so Mike Land has been in the cancer industry for 28 years, grew up in Dallas, Texas, and moved to McKinney in 1995 to raise his two sons. He lost his first son, Wesley, in 2005 due to medical complications, and then more recently lost his son, Preston, to fentanyl poisoning. Michael has dedicated his mission nationally to bring awareness to the fentanyl crisis and help others with their addiction. He is standing up for all parents who have lost loved ones so that their children are not just numbers. Michael served on the board for Serenity High School and also serves on the Collin County Board of Texans Against Fentanyl. Michael also mentors those who struggle with addiction, grief, and suffering at his church through a biblical based steps program. And I love the way you worded your bio, Mike, because I saw that and thought, in many ways, it is like for Memorial Day, as a veteran, we say their name, and you have to always say their name, so they're not lost. So, feel free to go ahead and start taking it away and kind of tell a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. But so I'm gonna go through my bio again, thanks to you. But I never wanted to be in this position. I never would have thought I would be doing this. I never wanted to do this. But 4 years ago, January 5th, I lost my son to fentanyl poisoning. And it's something that no parent ever thought they would have to do is, of course, have a funeral for their own child. And I especially never thought when I got that call that day that I would be doing it for my second child.
Yeah.
I expect that. And so, for the first year after he died, I was in a lot of pain, a lot of anger, as most people would be. But then I just realized that, hey, I'm going to use this suffering as a purpose. And the best thing I can do is, as a parent of a child that, he was 25 years old when he died, I looked at it as a blessing that I even had him. He was a gift. And there's a lot of people that will never have that gift. And so the best thing I can do is share that gift and share my experience and share what I've been through to try and help other people out. And just to listen to what I'm saying, to what we call in our industry, I hate to say it, is don't join our club. If you can listen to what we say,
oh yeah,
you don't want to be a member of our group. And so, the first thing I did in the first year, I'll be honest, is I was in anger, and I was the guy that was going to shut the problem down. I was the guy that was going to close the border and fix every problem. And then I just, after a year, I realized I couldn't do anything. So I said, you know what? One thing I can do is at least share the experience. So I went to 25 national parks, the number of years that Preston was alive. And I started 25, Preston 7. 7 comes from multiple different numbers of 7. Most importantly is it's the number of completion in the Bible. So I thought I'm going to ride my bike 7 miles in each park through the trails, whatever it is. And then I was going to go to the tallest peak at every national park and do a memorial service for Preston. I did that. I put it on video. It's on the website, 25.
I watched it.
And I thought, how am I going to get attention to people? And I thought, what's better than a national park? It's God's creation. Man hasn't touched it. It's beauty. I'm going to, capture people's attention. And most importantly, just share the experience of, I wouldn't say experience, but more of the things that I felt I did wrong as a parent that I look back now that maybe I can share with other parents and say, hey, listen to what I said. And hopefully if you made the same mistake that I did, it might help, talk to your child. And so I did that. I always said a Bible verse before I read did every memorial, something that meant something to me. And I shared that on video. And I just remember the biggest thing that stood out to me at the national parks was people would ask, what are you doing here? What are you filming here? And I said, my son died of a fentanyl poisoning. And I can guarantee you, I don't care what country they were from, wherever they were from, every person said the same thing. Thank God my kid is not a drug addict. And then I would say, then you're who I want to talk to. Because I said, it's the whole stigma that the fentanyl poisoning, most people think that people die of fentanyl poisoning because of they're addicts, so they have an addiction.
Right.
And I try to explain to people, I said, the addicts, what has happened is they've already built up a tolerance for opioids. So getting a dose of fentanyl might not even kill them. They might just become more addictive because fentanyl, and I'm sure we'll go through this, fentanyl is more addictive than morphine and heroin. So they've already built up a tolerance. I said, the people that it's killing are the first-time users, the people that are experimenting. And that's the biggest issue that we're having right now in America is people are experimenting just like I did in the 80s and 90s when I grew up, 70s, 80s, 90s. But, you experimented back then And the worst thing that could ever happen was, honestly, you woke up with a really bad headache the next day or something like that. But now you don't wake up, you die. And that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to present to most people. And that's, I thrive and love talking to students at schools, anywhere from elementary to high school, colleges, and just try and share that you can't take that experimental chance anymore, because it is a chance that you will die. And there's the other chance that you'll become addicted to fentanyl, and you're
What
the last one if you do.
what was the saying that you said, the when before we logged in and started the show? It was the you
One
die,
try,
you try.
yeah, because it's for Preston died 4 years ago, and when fentanyl first came out, the poison came out, of course, a long time before that. But it was the saying, one pill can kill, is what
Okay.
you throw a poster on the wall, one pill can kill. And now it's to the point that I said, don't even listen to that anymore, because it's not just in pills. I said it's in vape pens, it's in marijuana, it's in cocaine, it's in everything else.
Because
So
you
I
don't
just,
know what's being laced with,
yeah.
right?
So I just started saying it's not one pill can kill. I say it's one try you die.
Right.
That's what I'm just trying to say to most people now. So it's that's what I'm trying to push out there, is it's in everything. It's not just in pills anymore. So
Right. Well, I'm gonna play this new drug trailer that I had showed you before.
okay.
So let's go into this trailer, and then we'll end up going into a commercial.
Okay.
A local teenager dead from a suspected fentanyl overdose. 17-year-old daughter is the latest local high school student to die of an accidental fentanyl
dead
overdose.
after taking pills laced with fentanyl.
Each week, the equivalent to a classroom of high school students dies of overdose across the country.
Today, fentanyl is being used by drug traffickers to produce counterfeit prescription pills.
These are completely fake pills.
50% of the counterfeit pills that are out there right now contain potentially lethal doses of fentanyl.
A lot of young adults in America are getting these pills on social media.
Even if it comes from their best friend, it's most likely not safe, because the drug supply right now is not safe.
None of us asked to have people we love passing away due to a preventable cause, but that is the thing about it is entirely preventable.
We didn't start this problem, but we can be part of the solution.
I look at that.
That's pretty powerful, isn't it?
Very powerful. I will say that the 50% are lethal. I will say that as of 2023, 2024, that 7 out of 10 pills that the DEA confiscates have a lethal dose in it. And I love the person that said that, it's a classroom full that we're losing. Just some numbers that most people don't realize is we've lost more people to fentanyl than if you were to add up the Vietnam War, the Afghan War, the Iraqi War combined. We have lost more people to fentanyl. We lose on average about 300 people a day. About every 4.8 minutes, somebody dies of a drug overdose in the United States. And 70-something% of those people were fentanyl related. So it's like a plane crash every day. And
that doesn't make the news every day either.
No, and that's one thing we've fought with, is why it's the stigma and shame part of this. I remember when COVID was, rampant, and we would have a toll on our TV screens every day, the number of deaths, number of people dying of COVID. Why aren't we showing this every day? And it comes down to a stigma and a shame issue. Most people, it's like, well, these people are just drug addicts. They're dying. They're second-class citizens. We don't care about them. So nobody produces the numbers. I mean, it's more people died the first year that Preston died than, the number of years he was alive in all the wars that happened during his. I mean, it's the leading cause of death from 18 to 50 now, and it's the most increasing cause of death from 0 to 17 years old. So it's something that it will affect everybody. Somebody will know of somebody. John Hopkins research did that 1 out of every 5 Americans knows of somebody that's died of a drug overdose. And so effect, and it's, I will say with the numbers that the death toll has actually gone down in fentanyl deaths, but the poisonings have actually gone up. And I'm sure we'll discuss Narcan. That's the reason for that, is why the death's gone down, is because we're promoting Narcan out there to people and to share Narcan with people. And we actually, I like to share it with the people that are actually using drugs. It's the motto of don't use alone anymore. Please take a Narcan. That way, if somebody goes down, give them the nasal spray of Narcan or naloxone, and that will, save their life. So
wow. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and go to commercial. When we come back, we'll start going through that PowerPoint I put together. I really enjoyed looking at all of the I'm a nerd. I'll admit I'm a nerd. I don't like having guests on that I haven't researched something in the, in the topic. So we'll go to commercial and come back and start jumping into the PowerPoint.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hi, thank you, and welcome back. I am here with Mike Land. My name is Eva Fulton. I am the host for From Pain to Purpose radio show on MBR Talk Radio. And, this is where we as veterans have a voice. We use this platform to not only have a voice as veterans ourselves, but giving others a voice. And for those of you who don't know, I do have a documentary called From Pain to Purpose. That's how I launched my show 2 weeks ago. And I have been following Mike on social media for a while now, and was really intrigued by his story and what he's been through and experienced with, the fentanyl crisis issue here in the United States. And I'm going to go ahead and pop open the presentation that I talked about. This is your son, Preston, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. He was so handsome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So when I was doing some research, I came across I think this was from the DEA page that had some street names. I'm sure that there's a way for, the people who use the dealers and the buyers, may change the names or some variant thereof. But I thought it was interesting what these were. So if you're a listener, I'll go ahead and read off what these street names as a sample are. Apache, China Girl, Chinatown, Dance Fever, Friend, Goodfellas, Great Bean, He-Man, Jackpot, King Ivory, Murder 8, and Tango and Cash. And that's from the USDEA. So I don't know. Have you heard any of those?
I've heard some of them. It's just amazing how I'm not that creative, but it's, wow. It's.
Yeah. So, today is the 15th. I couldn't think of a better word, the better title for the show than Forging the Fentanyl Crisis. And I think that's really the way I saw what you were doing by, all of your state park visits and climbing up those, climbing up to the mount of each location. That's what you were doing. You were doing this journey, climbing up for them, and not just for Preston, but for any of the other victims. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I did it for two purposes. One was it was a grieving process for me as well. It was for me to finally speak about it, and talk about it, the death, and because I know a lot of people. I hate to say it, there's a lot of people out there that when you lose a child, there's an 80 to 90% chance that there will be a divorce because one of the spouses might not ever talk about it. And it just causes so I just said, I'm going to at least share it, and it helps me with the grieving process. And then hopefully that somebody one day will, not make the same mistake that Preston did and experiment. So
you're right.
Yeah. So it was good for me to express my feelings and share that with other people. And the one big thing that I've noticed is when I've done speaking engagements, and in fact, the group that I'm with, Texas Against Fentanyl, 5 of the most beautiful women I've ever met in my life are all mothers that have lost their children, and all kind of about the same age as Preston, about the same time frame. And so we kind of joke it's because I'm the only man, and I start seeing that a lot of men never get out and speak, and I know why. It's because we're men. We're not supposed to share our feelings. But
it's not. Is it really so much about sharing your feelings? It's the awareness side of it, right?
It kind of reminds me of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We had Matt,
right?
And so it's always the women out there, and there are fathers. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of fathers out there. I've got a lot of what I call brothers now that are fathers that have lost children. And but I just thought, I need to get the guys out there, and if
Yeah.
I can get out there and cry in front of a camera and do whatever, then share your feelings. That was my hope. So.
Well, I think that's very important to do in setting that kind of example. My ex-husbands are not around. Both dads are not around. So I applaud you for getting out there and doing that. So these were some facts that I found out there, that fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin, 100 times more potent than morphine. And I've had morphine at the VA. I can't imagine. And I've had the ketamine tunnel after I broke my back in 2021 in the ambulance, and I don't ever want to do ketamine again. That was on the ambulance. That was horrible.
Right.
But 2 milligrams can kill. And that just, you can't even imagine. That's just, what did you say? 2 grains?
It's like 2 grains of salt, and that's 2 milligrams. And, for people that don't know, fentanyl is used for a purpose, but it's actually dosed in micrograms.
I can only imagine.
So, and I know that, Preston, when I got his autopsy back, he had 12 milligrams, so that's 6 times the legal, lethal limit,
Wow.
12 milligrams. So, yeah,
But it can come in pill, liquid, and powder.
Pill, liquid, powder, but it's also, like we were speaking about earlier, it's in marijuana now. It's in vape pens. So it's in anything that they can put out there.
They can lace it in anything.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, and I know the video you even showed. It's that most of this stuff is being passed around at school, and most kids don't know about that they even have a pill that's laced with fentanyl. They're just, it might be between classes. Hey, I'll trade you an Adderall for a Percocet. And, if I was to give you, Eva, a Percocet, I don't know if there's fentanyl in it or not. So you just don't know. It's odorless. It's tasteless. You don't know what's in there.
The only medications that I get prescribed are from the VA, and I don't even like taking those.
Yeah. Well, I always joke when I've shared the stage with a law enforcement or U.S. attorney or something. They're always saying, if you're not getting your pill from your doctor, your pharmacist, or your parent, don't touch it. And I always just say, whatever he or she just said, don't listen to it. First off, no doctor is passing out a pain pill. I've been in the industry for 30 years. I've never seen a doctor pass out a pain pill at their office. Second, where did your parents get it? So if you're not literally getting it from a pharmacy in a packaged container, don't touch it. And I always see it's been around so long, the M30s, the blue pills. Just let people know, the manufacturer stopped making the blue pills years ago. So if there's a blue pill out there, it's counterfeit, unless it's something that's been sitting in grandma's cupboard for 10 years, or something like that. There are no new blue pills out there. They're all counterfeit. Wow.
So where and what is the title of the next slide? It's in schools, and I did look up, there's some, I have a link at the end of the presentation that it is an issue for veterans. So I didn't discount that we have a veteran population who has a problem with opioids as well. And I think part of that is the, issues where if they can't get the prescription from the VA, they go trying to get it from somewhere,
right?
Because they're in pain, whether it's, from arthritis or, trying to escape, escape whatever, I'm going to use the word hell, whatever kind of hell they're trying to escape from. Sometimes the pills will numb it. I see that Into the Weeds, one of our radio show hosts said that it's in patches too. The VA used to prescribe patches.
Yeah.
So then can you tell me a little bit about naloxone and what is it, Narcan, right? Is that the other?
Yeah, naloxone is actually, I guess you would consider it, the generic name for it, but Narcan is the one of the brand names, I guess you will. But basically, Narcan is used to reverse the effects of opioids. So if somebody has an overdose on an opioid, there are certain different signs that you will basically you go under. I mean, it's like you kind of just pass out. Your lips, turn blue, eyes, dilated and everything. And it's basically just a nasal spray. And it's over the counter now. You can buy it at, Walgreens, wherever you want. And you basically just one squirt in the nose on one side, and then you wait to see if the person responds. If they do respond, it's not that means that everything's great. You can go about whatever you're doing. You have to actually call 911 at that point, because Narcan or naloxone, it only lasts about 20 to 30 minutes, but the opioids in your system are still there. They'll last up to 90 minutes. So sometimes you have to hit them once or twice. And what we always say is if somebody goes down, call 911, give them a squirt in the nose. After that, if they don't respond, hit them with the other side.
That's if you actually have it available to give it to them, right? I mean, because I've done the emergency CPR training. I've had the certification for that, so I could help somebody having a heart attack, but I wouldn't be able to do anything for somebody. I mean, not that I would hope anybody would have that issue at work, but I just can't imagine that where people actually going to be able to have these things available. I don't know if do they have them at Walmart or, are they stocking these at the schools?
Yeah. So at the schools, like in the state of Texas right now, is every school has a nurse and every school has what they call an SRO, a student resource officer. Those two people carry Narcan with them.
Okay.
That's great. Now, what we're trying to push on, both sides of the aisle is we actually want Narcan in every classroom, because here's what happens is if you're in Texas and I'm in Texas, some of these high schools are bigger than colleges, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine, if an SRO or a nurse is on one side of the campus, a kid goes down in the bathroom. By the time they get there, it could be too late. So,
oh, yeah, that would be probably my kid's high school. And they just built on, this is a school that they graduated from. It would probably take you 15 minutes to get from one side of the school to the other. Easy,
So we're trying to push. I mean, I'll be honest, there's a lot of schools that the teachers just carry it with them anyways. And it's not a very hard thing to be trained. If you can squirt something in your nose, a spray, it's good. I mean, it's that simple. And so it's, and it literally is everywhere. You can get it for free. You can go to, I think the old website was morenarcanplease.com, but it'll send you to the new website and you can order, free Narcan. And it's available. If you want, you can go to your Walgreens, Walmart, it's there as well. It should be in every household. It should be in every car. It should be anywhere. And one of the biggest things that people ask is, what if I give this Narcan to somebody and they're not having an opioid overdose? Does it hurt them? No, it doesn't. I've been on stage a million times, squirt it in my own nose. It doesn't do anything to you. So,
well, that's good to hear. I guess part of me is thinking, as you were saying that, it's kind of like Texas has the, what's the accident law where the Good Samaritan law, right? You've got the Good Samaritan law for car accidents. Right. How do we not have the Good Samaritan law that applies to Narcan as well?
Yeah, because it can't hurt you at all. I mean, and I always tell people, I said, keep it at home as well. Even if you don't have children, what if you have an elderly parent that, comes to spend the holidays with you and she's got dementia or something like that, and she takes too many of her pills, her pain pills or something like that, you could save her as well. So, I mean, it needs to be in every home. It's, it's like a seatbelt or a fire extinguisher. Everybody needs it. So,
I did find there on the CDC's website, recognizing the signs of opioid overdose can save a life. Here are some things to look for: small, constricted, pinpoint pupils, falling asleep or losing consciousness, slow, weak, or no breathing, choking or gurgling sounds, limp body, cold, clammy, and or discolored skin. And I think for me, just even reading that sounds pretty much typical of a lot of other types of drugs. So you're not even really my reading that, it doesn't sound like it's going to be much different than if they had overdosed on heroin or something either.
Yeah. But before we move off of naloxone, though, I do need to bring up one thing that is happening is there's about 20 new what they call nitazines that are coming over to the United States. And these new nitazines are basically a derivative of fentanyl.
Okay.
The sad thing is they're about, I'm not a scientist or anything, but from what I understand, they're about 3 molecules away from being an opioid, a true opioid. And the sad thing is Narcan doesn't work. Naloxone doesn't work for these nitazines.
Oh, no.
It's basically just killing you. And I know personally, February of last year, I got a call from a father saying, hey, I know you're the fentanyl guy, whatever, but I found my 16-year-old and her best friend dead in the bedroom. And the paramedic said, it looks like it's one of those fentanyl issues. And I think it's 3 months later, he texted me the autopsy, and it was actually one of the nitazines. And they had bought a little bag of cocaine, and I guess they both did a little bit of coke, and but it had the nitazine in there. So Narcan wouldn't have even helped them at all, even if 911 showed up.
Oh, wow. Because they wouldn't have known what they had ingested, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's, and that just goes
That is scary. That's scary. Why do, I'm so glad you're on the show with me. We're going to go ahead and move to a commercial real fast. I know it's 6:36, but it'll be a short, if I can find a short one.
Okay.
To a hero, I say, I hope to see you again on some sunny day. And to a hero, and the love you left behind, I'll try my best to pass it on till the end of my time. And to a hero, you're gone, but I have no doubt that you have made it home. And to a hero taken way too soon over there in that dusty country, an Afghan afternoon. To a hero and the little one you left behind, I hope he grows up with your passion, I'm sure he will with time. And to a hero, a warrior through and through, you were taken way too early, what can we do? Well, we can try to keep your spirits alive, we can try to be nice, we can not take for granted all the beautiful things in our lives. We can be the change we want to see, and we can listen to the wind pass through the trees. We can speak the words we know are true for our heroes. This is what we can do. To all the heroes taken from our lives, at home or in those countries, fighting for what's right. Now we can do this for you and all your kin, and make this world a better place for your kids to grow up in. And we can try to be true, admit when we don't have a clue, and be there with the ones we love until our time is good and through. And we can be the change we want to see, and we can listen to the wind pass through the trees. We can speak the words we know are true for our heroes. This is what we can do. Yeah, we can try to be nice. We can not take for granted all the beautiful things in our lives. We can be the change we want to see, and we can listen to the wind pass through the trees. We can speak the words we know are true for our heroes. This is what we can do. To a hero, I say, I hope to see you again on some sunny day. All right, to a hero.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You know, I couldn't help but, as he was singing the song, thinking in some ways you're a hero for taking up the cross for the fentanyl crisis on behalf of your son and a lot of the other, you know, parents that are going through this. And I think the veterans that, you know, are afflicted with, you know, some of their issues as well. So my hat's off to you, Mike, and thank you for joining me.
I wouldn't say I'm a hero. I'm just, I mean, I look at the people that have died since Preston's died. There's been about, it's probably up to 350,000 people. That means there's 700,000 parents that are just like me.
Yeah.
You know, we're not heroes. We're just here to share our experience. That's all we're doing.
Right.
And we don't look for accolades or anything like that. We just want to share the story because, like I said before, our club is full. We don't want anybody else joining our club.
Yeah.
And so we're just, so, I mean, I thank you for saying that, but yeah, it's, yeah, it's our purpose now. It's my purpose.
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly. You know, hopefully the kids aren't watching, not that this is not kid friendly show, but, I saw this as one of I'll have the links for the websites at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, and it's not too hard to find them out there. But this is one of the graphics that I saw, and from one of the flyers. I think this was one of the DEA flyers that they had up there. So these are the emojis that are being used by users and by the pushers, the dealers. You know, I kind of thought it was interesting, even just looking at that universal for drugs. It's the Canadian flag, the Canadian, the Canadian leaf over there. I'm like, wow, who would have thought? Why would they put the Canadian leaf as the universal sign for drugs? But anyways. Did you ever notice that?
To be honest, that's the first time I actually paid attention to that. But I mean, no, it's a great thing for parents, you know, to look at their kids' phones. And, you know, I always joke, a lot of parents will say, well, my kid won't let me look into their phone. And I'm like, well, they're still on your payroll. You have that authority to look at their phone, you know. So
yeah, you know, I'll be honest. I was one of those parents that I did not, and maybe that was because I grew up as I grew up as Gen X, and you know, we played, we did our thing. I kind of parent that way. I don't micromanage my kids. I'm not a helicopter mom. Ask my kids. They, you know, my two oldest, one of them would have been Preston's, you know, age, and then my other two are younger. They're 23 and 21. But out of all the four kids, I never looked at their cell phones. I just was not that parent I was doing good just to do my own stuff. So
you bring up the word helicopter parent, and I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
And I see it looks like the Black Hawk behind you or something. But I always tell people now.
Oh, that's because it's the Desert Storm stuff.
Nobody ever wanted to be a helicopter parent, but in this day and age, I hate to say it, I think you almost have to be, and you have to get involved with your kids' lives now, especially. And you know, one of the biggest things that I've always told people is, what was the biggest mistake I ever made as a father? I became my son's best friend instead of a father. And And I didn't get involved with, his feelings, his emotions and things like that. I blew it off. Get over it, whatever. I've been there before, blow it off. It's no big deal. But I think it's time that, and I'm never going to tell anybody that I was a perfect parent. I'm never going to tell anybody how to be a perfect parent. But one thing I will share some of the stuff that I've looked at in my past of what I felt I did wrong. And, people look at me and say, I couldn't imagine you've had the worst thing that could ever happen to somebody happen to you. You've lost all of your children. And I said, you're right. That's the worst thing that will ever happen to me. But I said, the worst thing that can happen to somebody else could be nothing compared to what I went through. It could be a 17-year-old girl in high school that is about to go on her first date and her hair doesn't look right, or she gets a blemish or something like that. And she crying to her mom saying, I can't believe this is happening. This is the worst day of my life. And what our generation would usually say, it's no big deal. We've all been there. You know what? That could be the worst thing that ever happens to her. And, what can these kids do now is they might just say, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm going to text a friend and get a pill to feel better.
Right.
And bam,
right.
So
because we ignored them instead of seeing it as a warning sign that the something was there, and we chose to ignore them.
Yeah. It's just the first time I did what they call grief share group. It's for people that have lost a loved one. And I remember going around the room and everybody lost somebody that they loved. And then I said about Preston, and the guy sitting next to me said, I lost my fiance, and I said, oh my God, how old was she? And she goes, she's 21. And I said, how did she die? And he said, oh, she didn't die. She just left me. And I'm like, oh, seriously?
That is not the same thing.
But the point is that was the worst thing that probably will ever happen to that guy.
Right.
So the point is you can't play with somebody's emotions now. And I
right.
It's so
everybody's loss is going to be different.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here's two more graphics that I found. One is let me make it bigger here.
Okay.
The one on the left is the number of pills containing fentanyl seized by law enforcement in the United States from 2017 to 2023. So you can see that was 49,657 in 2017, going up to 290,000 in 2018. 2019 is 1.5 million-ish. 2020 is over 4 million. 2021 is nearly 11.5 million pills. Then we go to 2022 with almost 44,461,000. And then 2023 is 115,562,603. I don't know about you guys, but something crazy happened with the increase of pills that have been brought in to the United States from 2017 to 2020. These are the ones that are seized. We don't even know about the ones that weren't seized, right? How many are out there on the streets that were not seized, that they were actually used? And the next one are what the medications for opioids, overdose, withdrawal, and addiction. So you've got some options over there: methadone, naltrexone. I should have practiced pronouncing these. I need to pretend like I'm in mass and being a reader. Buprenorphine, we'll see. Buprenorphine, naloxone, lofexidine, naloxone, and then nalphamine. Those last two reverse the overdoses. Those first four reduce opioid use and cravings, and the lofexidine treats withdrawal symptoms. Do you have anything to input on that?
I would like to. The first slide with the confiscated pills. Here's the one thing that I will say is, and I might be off by a couple of million because I don't have the slide in front of me, but I think it was 2023 or 2024. The DEA confiscated, I want to say it was like 379 million lethal doses of fentanyl in 1 year. Okay. That's the DEA alone. We're not talking about Border Patrol, local law enforcement, sheriff's office, whoever. So let's take that number, 379 million lethal doses that they confiscated in 1 year. That's about 5 to 10% of what actually comes through that they confiscated. So let's just, and I'm a numbers guy, let's just take 379 million. Let's say that was 10% they caught. There's another 3.79 billion lethal doses that came into the United States that we didn't catch.
That made you think, where is that stuff stored at?
Yeah, well, I can get into that as well, but it's
okay.
Think about that. Let's just round it off at 4 billion lethal doses came into the United States that we didn't get. What's the world population? 8 billion. Okay. And that was the biggest question. I mean, as soon as I won't get political.
You have enough to kill half of the population around the world.
Yeah. So, and I remember when the administration changed and we've closed the border, everybody's like, oh, Mike, we don't have a fentanyl issue anymore. And I said, oh, you're crazy. I said, we got enough fentanyl here, even if no.
It's already here. It came in the Trojan horse.
Yeah. So, so fentanyl is still going to come across. They'll still get it here if they want it here. And it's a monetary thing. I mean, if you take a pound of fentanyl, and this is not a business proposition to anybody, if you take a pound of fentanyl, you spend 20 grand on it, you buy a pill press online on Amazon for $5,000, you've got $25,000 invested, you can turn that into $10-15 million. So it's, I mean, please don't take my advice, people, to go into business.
Oh, no. I just, what is it? What's the series that I watched on Netflix? The one where it was filmed in Dallas. But they were doing all the trafficking and becoming the mules, and I'll have to, somebody I'm sure will add it. But I watched at the beginning of COVID, and I was like, oh my gosh, who thinks about doing these things and how they're going to get it across the border? And, my dad watches, hi, Dad, I don't know if he ever listens to my show, but he loves watching the, show where they're carrying stuff in through TSA. They're putting it inside the shells of their suitcases or on or in their person. And, it's just crazy.
Well, the biggest problem, Ava, is that, the United States is the largest consumer of drugs.
Yeah.
Also the largest consumer of sex trafficking and pornography as well. So it's an issue of, we have to get with our kids and, do the best thing. And mental health, I will say, is one of the biggest crises that we have in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say Texas is ranked, 49th in the United States of, helping out for mental health. And I'll be honest. I mean, I've told this story a million times. My son was on Vyvanse, which is a drug used for ADHD, and he was diagnosed with ADHD. That's fine. The pill worked. But when we get off this show, turn on the TV, you're going to see a commercial every 5 seconds of a drug that's going to fix something in the United States. And this generation lives in a society that, hey, a pill will fix everything. I'm depressed tonight. I need to stay up late. I need an Adderall. An Adderall is going to save me, and I'll stay up and study. Bam, no, you're dead. I mean, that's the whole thing. We have to.
I do vitamins, magnesium. I take my magnesium at night and sleep better, as long as I'm not drinking caffeine afternoon. And but so moving on, because we've got 6 minutes left. Resolution HR 67 was submitted last year in the 118th Congress. Have you heard anything about, whether they're going to, submit something again? Is there any support we can talk to our congressman to initiate it? Because, I'll read what this is. This is HR 467 to halt all lethal trafficking of Fentanyl Act, or the Halt Fentanyl Act. It's a bill that is permanently places fentanyl-related substances as a class into Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act as a Schedule 1 controlled substance. And anyways, it goes on. So the bill makes plenty other references about changes to the registration requirements for controlled substances. And, anyways, so there's plenty of information, and it's supposed to make it a 10-year mandatory minimum prison term for 100 grams or more. And I'm just thinking, based upon what you're telling me a while ago, if 2 milligrams can kill, man, 100 grams,
Yeah.
that's a whole bunch of people. Isn't that essentially like, I'm just thinking that's potential mass murder.
It is. And I know in Texas, it was, I think it was 2023 when Greg Abbott, they signed into I forgot the bill name, but it's a murder charge now in the state of Texas. So if you intentionally give somebody fentanyl, then you will have, I want to say it was like a 25-year minimum sentence in prison. And when I first heard that, I thought, this is a defense lawyer's dream case, because how are you going to prove, that? But, and the sad thing is, and I've got so many parents that right now they're dealing with, they know that the person killed them, intentionally gave them fentanyl, but the proof sometimes is so hard that they're getting what they call a Mandel charge, manufacturing delivery charge. And it's very sad. It's my son died prior to that bill being passed. So basically his autopsy said acute fentanyl intoxication. And now especially with Texas, with the bill, what they did is now the medical examiner will say on the autopsy, fentanyl poisoning or fentanyl toxicity. So that way you can actually go for a murder charge. So
so they kind of improved the language on it a little bit. So do you think that is there a push for the Texas Fentanyl Group to push and raise this to a higher mandatory minimum? Or
we haven't talked about the minimum. I mean, I know that they talked about the 25-year minimum in the state of Texas. I know a lot of the times the cases will get thrown up to the feds and the U.S. attorney. Yeah. What they're trying to do is they're trying to work their way up to the cartel guys. But I will say one thing here, like in Collin County where I live, we had our first case. I think the guy got 30 years in Allen, Texas. He was sentenced. In Fort Worth, Tarrant County, a 19-year-old, they gave him 19 years. But the one thing I've talked to both the DA here is we want to take the approach that anytime you have somebody in your courtroom, judge or DA, that we're going to have Texas Against Fentanyl there or other family members there, and we're going to sit in the courtroom every time. And the judge and hopefully the prosecutors are going to I'm so sick of seeing these people that if you come into my courtroom with a fentanyl murder charge, you're getting the maximum. And the goal from us is we're going to make it so where if you deal in our county and you murder somebody, you're going away. And hopefully that spreads to every county and then throughout the United States.
That's the MAD model, right?
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And here's some websites. The new drug talk doc I can't talk. The new drugtalk.org.
Right.
And txaf.org. That's the one that you're a part of, Texans Against Fentanyl. I put the VA's website for mental health.va substance. That one's there. And then Fentanyl Awareness Day is April 29th, 2025.
Yeah.
Now there was something before we leave. I know it's a minute till, and we can stay a couple of minutes later. There was something you had said about you spoke with a judge that does the veterans treatment courts.
Yeah. So real quick, 2 points I'll make is another website, if you could put up there, is 25preston7.com. And the reason I want to put that up there, it's not to promote me.
We can put it in the comments.
Yeah. So the national park thing, a lot of people know about, but on March 24th, I'm leaving and I'm doing 25 waterfalls in 7 states in 7 weeks. The reason I'm doing that is basically to bring awareness to the people that have died from fentanyl. So every waterfall, I will read off the names of the people that have died of fentanyl. and I'll put it on a video. So I don't want them to be numbers. They're names. These are people.
Right. Right.
Yep. So that's the one thing I'm doing. And yes, there's a Judge John Roach. I forgot the district he's out of. I mean, I know he's in Collin County, but his court number, I can't remember it. But he does a veterans court, and he helps out veterans that have committed crimes. And when I watched him on a podcast, the Pink Cloud podcast, I was listening to him and I thought, these veterans are just like us parents. Imagine going off to war and, your platoon, you go into war, whatever that is, you come back with PTSD. It's kind of like the parent. We have PTSD, post-traumatic losing a child. And that gives me the purpose to go out and speak. Well, these veterans, as soon as they come back, they've lost their platoon. They've lost their purpose. They're just in normal society. So I talked to the judge and I said, hey, any of these guys that you want, guys and gals, whoever it is, send them to me. Let them come speak and give them a purpose. And that might give them something to do. Talk about something. Talk about it. Share it. And so if that's what you're asking with the Veterans Court.
Yeah, yeah.
But
there was also, I'm going to bring up that third point that we had talked about before we started the show tonight, that you spoke with a school district and they really want to pretend like it's not in my backyard. Right?
Yes. So
and I don't want to get any school districts in trouble.
I won't name anybody, but it's,
yeah.
And I've met so many people throughout the whole nation that we run into the same problem. First off, every high school in the United States has an addiction problem. I mean, drugs are everywhere. But there are a lot of school districts that say, not in my backyard. We don't have that problem. It's bad for business for us to promote it. So people always ask me, how do I talk to my schools? How can you come speak at my school? Go in there and push for us to speak. But a lot of districts won't. They don't want to bring it up. We don't have a problem here. So it's bad for
Is
business.
the alternative being part of, PTA?
Yeah, we at Texas Against Fentanyl, we actually did a Texas, I could be saying it wrong, it was the Parent Teacher Association convention.
Yeah.
And they did it at the Gaylord, and we spoke to all the PTA members, and they want us in there. I mean, they want us talking to it. It just, sometimes it's the higher ups that say, we don't talk about addiction here. It's bad for business.
Yeah, it's maybe bad for business, but having it happen is bad for business too.
Yeah.
Because who wants to have the death report that is going to make the news?
That's what we spoke of. And I got, even in a certain area, I won't mention the names, but I looked at the death rate in a certain area, and I looked at the cities where the deaths have gone down and where the deaths have gone up. And I started thinking, some of these school districts that let us speak, the deaths have gone down. The school districts that we don't have a problem here, the deaths have gone up. So I don't know if that's a coincidence. I'm not a genius.
Wow.
I mean, it's.
I wonder if there's differences, political. Is there?
Well, that's a whole other show.
I know, but. Well, is there anything else? I hope I put the right website over in the chat over there. You said 25preston.com, right?
Let's see if I can find it. 25preston7.com. Yeah.
Oh, oops. All right. We will correction.
Yeah, and just
WW.
Yeah. I mean,
25 Preston. You said 7.com, right?
7.com, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's just I'm just a little part of a little group of 5 women, great women, and myself, and we do the Texas Against Fentanyl. We, our founder Stephanie. There's a Tucker's Law in the state of Texas that you have to bring education from 6th to 12th grade in the state of Texas. And the sad thing is they can check the box by just throwing a poster on the wall. But we want to
and it's not trying to teach the kids how to do drugs.
No.
Compared to, having the sex talk that actually tried teaching them how to have sex. And
exactly.
I opted out for those things for my kids, but I definitely would have supported making sure that they are aware of the dangers of it, So any other parting words that you can think of?
I can I'll tell people, usually I'm somebody's best friend when I talk to parents about the addiction problem. And then when I talk to schools and colleges, I just ruin their buzz. They don't like me because it's like, man, I can't do anything anymore. So just the biggest thing is you can't experiment like you used to. It's not worth it. It's
right.
roulette. You can't take that chance. And so don't take anything from somebody that you do not, even if you know the person, don't take anything. Do not take a pill. Do not try a drug. I'm from Texas. Drink Dr. Pepper. That's the best you can do. I'm sorry. Simple as that.
I can't even drink that anymore. It's too much sugar for me.
But just be aware and just, like I say every day, if one person hears my story and one person lives and chooses not to make a mistake, then my son didn't die for any other reason but to save that person.
No.
And every other parent out there that's sharing the same story. It's not just me. There's millions of us that are out there sharing the story. So
I think you had said that basically the numbers that we're losing every day is like a plane full every day.
Yeah. And why is
Right.
that on the news? If a plane crashes, it's on the news. But 300 people die every day. And quit the stigma and shame. Quit thinking,
Right.
The drug addicts and I always say this when I talk at high schools. I'll ask the kids, I said, is there anybody here that, maybe wants to go to college, but then said, oh, maybe I want to be a drug addict instead. Nobody's ever chosen that life to become a drug addict.
Right.
Like that. And why are they less people than anybody else? I mean,
and didn't you say that the highest numbers were from 0 to 17?
So the most increasing cause of death now is from the ages of 0 to 17 is fentanyl. It's not the most cause of death. It is the most.
It's like a secondary, right?
Correct.
Because the drugs are available, and it's not that they were fed it or whatever. It's that there was some kind of a secondary contact. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, there was a case. I forget what state it was, but there was like a football watching party, and an infant was, I don't know, maybe a year old, was crawling on the floor and fell over dead. Now, what they found out is that somebody at the party had a pill that was laced with fentanyl. It dropped on the floor, but they picked the pill up, but just a little bit that fell on the floor, the child inhaled it and died. So a lot of people have seen the videos where an officer literally pulls somebody over, goes through their stuff, their bag, and then they just fall over completely. So it's just inhaling it can kill you.
Wow. This is, you're welcome to come on to my show. I'm sure there might be some of the other hosts that might reach out to you too. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I think that this is definitely a pain to purpose. I know that we don't like going through pain, but it definitely helps us reevaluate, some of our choices in life, and how do we flip that narrative in our head to know that, I can climb this mountain and get to the next side, so appreciate it. So thank you everybody for joining the show. I really appreciate your joining us. This is MBR Radio, the talk side, where we give veterans a voice, and obviously a lot of our topics are going to affect other people in the community, people we love, could be strangers, but you never can tell if we've got, the tools that we need to help somebody else. It just may save a life. So thank you for joining From Pain to Purpose. Until next week, and hope y'all have a very blessed week. If I can find the right, there we go.
Thank you.
I can hit it. Oh, I'm trying to do the outro.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.